Race 3 of the Zwift Racing League is a scratch race for teams that are category A or B. This means this week's race will take place on the Mercury Islands, country to coastal. If you're category C or D, you can find your Recon for your category in the description down below. Being a scratch race, your finishing position is what matters, so let's get into the details. Country to coastal is one of the Mercury Islands' longest routes. This race will cover a total of 33.5 kilometers and 284 meters of elevation. This is the second time that the Zwift Racing League has had a scratch race on this course, as we were back here in 2024. Bike choice, it's hard not to recommend the Pinarello Dogma F2024 or the Specialized SL8 with the DT Swiss 65. As we've mentioned in prior videos, the disc wheels are only 6.3 seconds faster, a difference which is easily overshadowed by the DT Swiss 65 wheels being 23 seconds faster over an hour of climbing. Given the final climb, being on a well-rounded wheel set may make the bigger difference. Make sure you are warmed up for this race, as almost immediately out of the pen, the climbing starts. The unofficial climb is 1.4 kilometers in length with a total elevation of 52 meters and an average gradient of 3.7%. A good chunk of this climb is draftable, but it also has a good spike as it hits a maximum gradient of 10.8% at 130 meters. Expect teams to push the pace here early in hopes of establishing an early break to put on the pressure and maybe dump a few weaker riders early. You will hit the village sprint at the 1.6 kilometer mark, 149 meter sprint segment. Not really much to worry about here other than you will receive your first power up for the race in the forms of a draft van. As always, we have detailed Recon notes available on Discord. The link is down below. Should there be any major changes to the situation in the race, we will do our best to have those notes updated to reflect the race. The pace should settle at this juncture, as those trailing will chase to get back on with the main group as we move through the village and through some rollers and then ultimately downhill. Don't expect too much over the few kilometers there, but then always expect the unexpected. At 7.3 kilometers, we will hit the country sprint. This short 146 meter segment will be where riders receive an anvil power up, which will be best used somewhere as you descend in the area of the 13 to 15 kilometer range in this route. Again, there isn't much to note until the wooden bridge at 15.9 kilometers. This is a small bump with a maximum gradient of 3.8%, and while it only lasts 200 meters, you may see some attacks launch here given there likely hasn't been any action to establish a break to this point. At 18.6 kilometers, expect some fireworks, as the sandy climb is sure to be another spot where teams will look to thin the pack or establish a break. This climb is very draftable and has a peak elevation of 5.9%. That being said, this 1.6 kilometer section with a 50 meter elevation gain will be tough. At 20.4 kilometers, we enter the seasha sprint reverse, a 283 meter segment. Here you will gain the steamroller power up. Immediately after the sprint, riders will proceed downhill. Any groups that have gotten away will try to keep the gap, while others will do their best to chase them down. Things will flatten out by 22.9 kilometers, but in less than a kilometer, there will be a small bump with a nice couple bends that somebody could attempt to create a gap and sneak away at the 24.1 kilometer mark. Things will flatten out by 22.9 kilometers, but in less than a kilometer, there will be a small bump with a couple nice bends that someone may attempt to create a gap and sneak away. And at the 24.1 kilometer mark, the dirt roads are likely the best place to utilize the power up awarded at the sprint segment, being the steamroller. A mix of slightly flat and rolling terrain will bring us to the Tidepool sprint reverse, a 318 meter segment at 25.5 kilometers, where you will be awarded a feather power up. At 26.6 kilometers, it is again time to climb. Granted, this is again a highly draftable climb, other than the peak 6% at 27.6. The gradient remains relatively low, though some people may choose to use their feather power up here. After 1.8 kilometers of a very draggy climb, things again will settle. At 32.4 kilometers with 1.1 kilometers remaining in the race, things are likely going to get hard. With 25 meters of elevation remaining, the pace isn't the only thing going to be going up. Expect the pace to get faster to make sure to stop any extra kick out of any sprinter types that may still remain in the group. You will pass through a Zwift League banner with about 0.5 kilometers to go. Don't make the mistake thinking this is the finish, and the banner should be seen in the distance at this point. You will also be awarded a burrito power up here, so expect a tough finish. Once you cross the stone bridge, the last 300 meters will be a tough push until crossing the finish line, especially with what is sure to be a burrito bombardment. Your legs are likely going to complain for a few days after this race. If you have found this video helpful, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for future race recons. Best of luck in your race, and until next time, see ya.